Good evening and welcome to our first ever virtual Kol Nidrei. Whilst the circumstances are sad, of particularly the coronavirus pandemic, the fact that we're able to include people at home is very important, and I'm glad we're able to do this thanks to technology. We are, of course, reciting Kol Nidrei, which is the beginning of the Yom Kippur prayers. It's not yet Yom Tov. You don't have to start your fast if you join in now. We will pause just before Shechionu, the bracha, the blessing. And please then feel free to eat until 6:33 when the fast begins, and light candles in time for that. And you can continue davening on your own from Shechionu onwards. A reminder that if you are planning to put your talis on, customary to do so before the fast begins, as we don't put on a talis at night. So we put it on before it gets dark, before 6:33. Yeah, I'm losing my voice slightly, so I hope that this comes out okay. So we will start using an art scroll, page 58, or page 56, with the traditional readings. O zaru ala tzadik, ulishrei lev simcha. O zaru ala tzadik, ulishrei lev simcha. O zaru ala tzadik, ulishrei lev simcha. Al das hamakayim v'al das hakahal v'shiva shel mala u'v'shiva shel mata anu matirin Lahispalel imabayanim al das hamakayim v'al das hakahal v'shima shel mala U'v'shiva shel mata anu matirin lahispalei imabayanim al das hamakayim v'al das hakahal v'shiva shel mala u'v'shiva shel mata anu matirin lahispalel imabayanim. Kol Nidrei Ve'esarei U'shavuei Ve'charamei Ve'kainamei Ve'kinusei Ve'chinuyei in darna ai udishtabana udiacharimna ai udiasana al nafshosana Yom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim haba aleinu. Latoimo. Echoin. Icharad nabain. Kolain yain sharan. Shavisin, Bertailin Mavotalin, Nasharirin, Velakayamin, Nidarana, Ai, La Nidrei, Besarana lo asarei. Ushavuasana la shavuos. Kol Nidrei. Vesarei. Ushavuei. Becharamei. Bekainamei. Bekinusei. Bechinuyei. Diadana. Udiishtabana. Udiacharimna. Udiasana. Al nafshasana. V'yom kippurim zeh. Ad yom kippurim. Aboleinu. L'toiva. V'choloin. Yisharad navain. Kolain yain sharan. Shavisin, Betailin Mavutalin, La Sharirin, Malakayamin, Nidrana, Aila, Nidrei, Yesarana la Yesarei, Ai, Ushavuasana, la Shavuos, Kol Nidrei, Ve'esarei, Ushavuei, Becharamei, Bekainamei, Bekinusei, Bechinuyei, Diendarna, Ai, Unishtabana, Odiacharimna, Ai, Uniasarna, Al nafshasana, V'yom kippurim zeh, Ai, Ad yom kippurim, Haba aleinu. Ai, L'toiva. V'choloin. Icharad navain. Kolain yain sharan. Shavisin, Batailin Vavotalin, La Sharirin, Velakayamin, Nidrana La Nidrei, Vesarana La Vesarai, Ahai, Ahai, Ushamu Asana, La Shavuos, V'nislach L'chol Ladas, V'nei Yisrael, V'lager Hagar, B'soicham, Ki l'chol Am Bishgaga, V'nislach L'chol Ladas, V'nei Yisrael, V'lager Hagar b'soicham, Ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga, V'nisnach l'chol hadas, V'nei Yisroel, V'lager Hagar b'soicham, Ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga, Tzlachna l'avinu hazeh, K'goydel chastecha, V'chashenu sasalam hazeh mitzrayim, V'yadheina, V'sham nema, V'yoyme Adonai, Solachti kidvorecha, V'yoyme Adonai, Solachti kidvorecha, V'yoyme Adonai, Solachti kidvorecha. We all know the famous joke about the rabbi, the chazan, and the shamas who were captured by bandits. They were told that they're going to be executed, and we're in the desert. They each give them one last wish. The rabbi says, my last wish is, there was one drosh I wanted to give once. Shabbos HaGadol, only 2 hours long. It was going to inspire everyone so much, but the president said, no, I would give anything to give that drosha one time. Okay, you can give your drosha. Ask the chazan what his wish is. He says, there's a piece at the end of Ne'ilah. It takes about an hour. The most beautiful piece. They never let me do it. They always want to go home. He says, fine, you can do that. They say to the shamas, what's your wish? He says, please kill me first. We have a long-standing tradition amongst Jewish communities all over the world to hire cantors, chazanim. And even shuls that don't have a full-time chazan will often have a chazan or Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, a choir sometimes, to entertain, to engage and inspire the crowds that flock to shul during these 3 days of the year. In many shuls, the chazan embodies the primary focus of the Yom Tov experience. Just like a concert or an opera, their choice of melodies, their skills, the way they manipulate the sound constitutes the highlight of the services. If you also have a rabbi who speaks well, tells good jokes, it's also successful. The Talmud tells us, do not spit into the well from which you drink. I should be the last one to fault this phenomenon. After all, I'm also employed, sometimes as a chazan, as a rabbi, to pontificate and occasionally tell jokes. But particularly as many of us find ourselves at home and not in the company of the rabbi or the chazan, I wanted to share a moving thought from the great Hasidic master, the Baal Shem Tov, concerning this chazan and rabbi phenomenon, which might be helpful, particularly to those of us at home, but actually to all of us at this time of year. The Baal Shem Tov, one of the most profound thinkers in history of Jewish spirituality, who lived in the 17th, 18th century, once shared the following story. Once upon a time, The lion grew furious with all the other jungle animals. Now, the lion, of course, is the king of the animals, powerful and dominant. And so when he gets angry, there's fright in the hearts of the other animals. What should we do? They murmured at an emergency meeting. If the lion lets out his anger, we are all done for. No worries, came the voice of the wily fox. In the reservoirs of my brain are 300 stories, anecdotes, and vignettes. When I present them to the lion, his mood will be transformed. A wave of joy rushes through all the animals. They embark on a march towards the home of the lion in the jungle, where the fox will placate him and restore the friendly relationship between the lion and his subject. As they make their way through the pathways of the jungle, the fox suddenly turns to one of his friends and says, "You know, I've already forgotten 100 of my entertaining stories." As rumors of the memory lapse start to spread, the animals are overtaken with trepidation. But then comes the calming voice of Mr. Bear. "Don't worry," says Mr. Bear. 200 stories from a brilliant fox are still enough to get the arrogant lion rolling in laughter and delight. "They will do the job," agrees Mr. Wolf. A short while later, as this entourage of animals nears the lion, the fox suddenly turns to another colleague. "I've forgotten another 100, he laments. "They simply slipped my mind." Now the animals are really scared. But soon comes the voice of the deer. "Don't worry," he says, 100 stories will also capture the imagination of our king." "Yes, 100 jokes will do fine," agrees Mr. Tiger. A few moments later, all of the hundreds of thousands of animals are in the lion's den. The lion rises to his full might and glory, casting a fierce gaze at all of his subjects and sending a shiver through their veins. As the moment of truth arrives, all the animals look with beseeching eyes to their bright representative, the wily fox, to approach the lion and accomplish the great mission of reconciliation. At that very moment, the fox turns to the animals and says, "I'm sorry. I forgot my last 100 stories. I have nothing left to say to the king." The animals are hysterical. "You're a vicious liar," they cried. "You deceived us completely." "What should we do now?" "My job," responds the fox calmly, "was to persuade you to take the journey from your own nest to the lion's den. I've accomplished my mission. You are here. Now every single one of you, discover your own voice and rehabilitate your own personal relationship with the king of the beasts." This story, concluded the Baal Shem Tov, illustrates a common problem with organized religion. We come to shul on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, or any other time of the year. We rely on the foxes, the cantors and the rabbis to serve as our representative to the King of Kings. "Oh, the rabbi's sermon today was unbelievable," we say. "He's really awesome." Or, "Oh, the chazan, that music had me in tears." These clergy become our foxes to get the job done for us. Sooner or later, we come to realize the foxes, with all due respect, they don't really have what it takes to address the king on our behalf. Each of us has to discover our own inner voice, inner passion and spirit, speak to God with our own unique and distinct flavor. Chazans and rabbis, whether it's Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur or the rest of the year, are like the Baal Shem Tov's foxes. Our job is to persuade and inspire people to leave their own domains and to embark on a journey towards something deeper and more real, into the lion's den. But ultimately, each and every one of us must ultimately enter God's space alone. So this year on Yom Kippur, particularly if you're at home, but actually if you're in shul as well, don't rely on us foxes. Speak to God directly. Use your own words and your own soul, heart to heart, from your truest place to his truest place. Good Yom Tov.
Yigdal Elokim Chai v'yishtabach Nimtza v'yenei sel metziusoi Echad v'yen yachid keyichudoi nelam v'gam ein soif leyachdusoi Ein Eloi demus haguf v'yein oyeguf loi naroi chelav kedush asoi kadmoin lechol davar asher nivera Rishon v'yein reishis l'reishisoi Hinoi Adonai lam l'chol noitzar Yoire gedulasoi u'malchusoi Shefa nevuasai nesanai el anshei segulasai v'sifartai Loikom beYisrael kemoi she'oid Navi umabit est emunasai Toiras emes nosan neyamoyel Al yad neviyoy neman beisoy Lo yachalif ha'el v'lo yamir dasoy Le'yoy lamim elezulasoi Soife v'yoydeyas sareyenu Mabit lesoif davar bekadmasoi Koimeil leish chesed kemifaloi Noisein l'rashara kerishasoi Yishlach lekeitz hayomin Meshicheyenu livdois mechake keitz Yeshuasoi Meisim Yechayeil beroiv chastoi Baruch Adeyat Shem Teilasoi Meisim Yechayeil beroiv chastoi Baruch Adeyad Shem Tehilosoi Adonai Lam Asher Molach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'yeis Naso B'cheftzoi Kol Azai Melech Shemoi Nikra V'yacharei Kichlois HaKol Levado Yimloich Noira Vehu Hayam Vehu Yiveh Vehu Yiyeh Besifara Vehu Echad Ve'yein sheni להמשיל אלוהי להכבירה בלי רישיס בלי סחליס ולא יהיז ועם ישראל והוא אלי וחי גוילי וצור חבלי ביסרה והוא ניסה ומן אסלים אנס קויסים ביום אקרא בידוי הפקיד רוחי בייס ישן וירא וימרוחי גבי יסי אדוני לי ולא ירא אדוני לעם אשר מלא בטרם כל יציר נברא לייס נשא בחפצי כל אזי מלך שמי נקרא That concludes my presentation. I wish all of you who are watching a Shana Tova U'Metuka, a good and sweet year, and may we all be inscribed for only health, happiness, and good tidings this coming year.